Hi, I'm Marjorie. And my son told me, don't ever come back, after I gave him my entire $32,000 pension to save his house. But what broke me wasn't that sentence. It was everything he didn't say before it. The fake smiles, the missing dinner plates, the live stream that turned my humiliation into entertainment. I walked into that house thinking I was saving a home. What I didn't know was that I was funding a performance, and I was never part of the script. What kind of son does that? And why did it take me so long to leave? I was never a woman who acted on impulse. After 38 years of calculating hospital budgets and managing patient flow schedules, you learn that timing and facts matter. But that morning, when Travis called saying, "Mom, the bank's going to take the house," I didn't even hesitate. I was sitting at my kitchen table in Plano, my coffee lukewarm, and before the call ended, I had already logged into my pension account. $32,000. That was the sum of a lifetime. Birthday checks never cashed, raises I never celebrated, holidays I spent alone working double shifts. It was meant to carry me through the quiet years. But in that moment, I didn't think about quiet. I thought about my son, his voice cracking under the weight of something he didn't want to admit. And I thought, what's the point of saving, if not for family? By noon the next day, I was standing at his front porch, suitcase in one hand, casserole dish in the other. The breeze was crisp, spring just peeking through winter's remains. The house was modest, worn, but still standing, because I made it so. When the door opened, Travis was there, but something in his smile faltered. "Hey, Mom, thanks for coming. Leora's inside." I stepped in, expecting warmth. What I got was awkward silence. We stood in the hallway for a moment too long before he cleared his throat. "So, about you staying. Leora and I talked, and with everything going on, it might be better if maybe you just visit for now. You know, privacy and all." I blinked. The bag I packed wasn't a weekend bag. It had my meds, tax folders, even the last pair of shoes I bought 2 years ago. But I nodded. "Of course, just visiting." He led me to the guest room, which looked more like a storage unit. Plastic bins lined the wall, and the mattress still wore its plastic wrap like it was embarrassed to be seen. No linens, no sign that anyone had even tried to make space for me. I sat on the edge of the bed, the crunch of plastic beneath me, too loud in that quiet room. I unpacked slowly. One drawer, my toiletries, my journal. Everything else stayed in the suitcase. That evening, I decided to cook. A pot roast. Travis loved mine growing up, said it smelled like home. I found ingredients in the fridge, some fresh, some questionable, but I made do. By 6, the table was set. 3 plates. I even folded the napkins into triangles, a habit from years gone by. The scent filled the house, and for a moment, I believed it might draw them in like it used to. But no one came. By 7, I found a note on the fridge, written in Leora's swirly handwriting. "Went out with friends. Don't wait up." The food cooled. I sat at the head of the table, the roast untouched, gravy congealing. I took a few bites, but each one stuck in my throat. I cleaned up in silence, wrapped the leftovers in foil, and placed them in the fridge behind Leora's green juice. Back in the guest room, I changed into my nightclothes, though I didn't sleep. I lay there, the ceiling fan clicking like a metronome, and I thought, did I expect too much? Had I mistaken a cry for help as a cry for closeness? I remembered when Travis was 8, standing in the doorway after scraping his knee. "You're my hero, Mama," he said, with tears still drying on his face. That boy, he would have eaten every bite of my roast and asked for seconds. Now, in this house I saved, I was no more than an afterthought, but I didn't cry. Not yet. I wasn't raised to collapse at the first sign of disappointment. I was raised to endure. Still, something shifted in that silence. Not loudly, not in anger, but in recognition. They hadn't told me not to stay, not yet. but the air already had the scent of eviction. The morning after that silent dinner, I rose early, hoping a new day would bring a shift in tone. I made coffee, strong, black, just the way Travis used to sneak sips when he thought I wasn't looking. I waited. Neither of them came down. I didn't want to be the first to speak again, but I needed clarity. By lunchtime, I heard footsteps. Travis stood at the kitchen entrance, phone in one hand, the other rubbing his temple. "Hey, Mom," he started, avoiding eye contact. "The roof's leaking again. It's getting worse." I looked up from the table, where I'd been sorting mail. "That's concerning. You should call someone." "Already did. They quoted $1,200. He paused. "Could you help cover it? Just for now." I closed the envelope in my hand, a medical bill with my name still incorrectly listed under this address, and met his eyes. "Travis," I said gently, "I already gave you everything I had. You know that." He shifted his weight. "Right, but it's just one more thing. It's your house too now." "No," I corrected. "It's your house. I gave you my savings so you wouldn't lose it. That's different." The silence between us stretched. Then came the words, flat, rehearsed. "Well, if you can't help more, maybe it's better if you don't stay at all." He didn't shout. He didn't slam a door. He just said it like he was reciting policy. I stared at him. My hands remained still on the table. In the corner of my eye, I saw a fly buzz near the window. I remember wondering how something so small could still find its way into a sealed house. "I see," I said, folding the bill. "I'll heat up something for dinner." He shrugged and left the room. That evening, I opened the fridge. The roast I'd made 2 days ago was still sitting untouched, pushed behind cartons of oat milk and protein bars. I reheated a small portion, sat at the table alone again, and stared at the third plate I'd once hoped would seat laughter. Taped to the fridge was a new note, Leora's handwriting again. "Don't make dinner tomorrow. We have plans." "No, thank you. No, we'll be late. Just instruction." I ate quietly, then washed the dish, letting the hot water numb my hands. Later, I sat on the bed, the one still half covered in plastic, and pulled out an old planner I'd kept since before I retired. I wasn't sure why I'd brought it, but now it seemed purposeful. I turned to a blank page and began writing. Not a journal entry, a list. Rent payments covered, medical bills covered, student loans refinanced, by me. When he lost his job at 27, I kept his lights on. When his car broke down, I lent him mine. When he couldn't make rent, I co-signed. Each line on the page felt heavier than the last, not because of regret, but because of the silence that followed all those sacrifices. Silence now disguised as distance. I closed the book and stared out the small guest room window. The streetlights cast a pale yellow across the sidewalk. That house once symbolized security. Now it was a collection of walls I didn't belong in. The next afternoon, while folding laundry, I overheard Leora speaking with someone on the phone. "Yeah, it's fine. I just didn't think we'd have to share our space this soon. I always imagined it'd be the two of us, not with her here all the time." She said it like I was a coat that hadn't been hung up properly, a misplacement. When she walked past the laundry room and saw me, she smiled, not out of kindness, but performance. "I didn't know you were back there," she said with a light laugh. "I meant no offense." "No offense taken," I replied. My voice didn't shake, but hers almost did. That night, I retrieved a journal I hadn't written in for nearly 20 years. I opened to the first page and wrote just one sentence. "If I am not family enough to be welcomed, I will be stranger enough to be respected." I didn't confront them, not that night, but I started seeing my role not through their eyes, but through my own. A week before Travis's birthday, I found myself standing in the back corner of a small music shop tucked between a dry cleaner and a vape store. The man behind the counter, bearded, polite, younger than Travis, smiled when I pointed at the dusty record player near the window. "That one still works," he said, running a cloth over it. "Plays clean, warm sound." I ran my fingers along the edges, My son had one just like this in high school, I said. Used to dance barefoot in the kitchen to Marvin Gaye, like nobody was watching. He laughed. Sounds like you've got a story there. I nodded, but didn't add more. He boxed it carefully, and I paid in cash. At home, I wrapped it in brown paper and twine. No ribbons, just a note inside. For the boy who used to dance in the kitchen. From the mom who never stopped watching. I placed it on the console table near the stairs, right where he'd see it. His birthday fell on a Thursday. That morning, I woke early, started cooking stew just the way he liked it. Thick, seasoned, with extra potatoes. The smell filled the house by noon. I even set the table, not because I expected a party, but because I still believed meals mattered. By 6, no one had come downstairs. Leora's laughter drifted from the bedroom, followed by the clacking of heels. At 7, I heard the front door open, then close. I stepped out into the hallway. "Where are you two off to?" I asked gently. Travis glanced at me, barely slowing his pace. "Leora planned something. Just a little thing downtown. Don't wait up." I looked down at my apron, still damp from washing carrots. "I made dinner." He paused, sighed. "Thanks, Mom. That was nice of you." Then they left. I sat at the table with 3 bowls in front of me. Their seats remained empty. The stew cooled. I didn't touch my own until an hour later, and even then, it tasted like boiled air. The gift stayed untouched on the console. The next day, I checked his Instagram. There they were, on a rooftop bar, golden light behind them, glasses clinking. The caption, "Best birthday ever. Just us. Just right." My name wasn't tagged, not even a comment. I waited 2 days, then a week. The box remained where I left it. Each morning, I passed it like a stain I couldn't scrub. On the 12th day, it was gone. Not opened, not mentioned. Just gone. Later, I found it in the hallway closet, tucked behind an unused yoga mat and some grocery bags. The note was still taped on. That night, I opened my journal. "It wasn't the gift that hurt," I wrote. "It was how easily I became invisible in a house I helped save." The next morning, I started cleaning out some old boxes I'd stored in the guest room closet. Among folded linens and newspaper-wrapped knickknacks, I found a spiral-bound notebook, Travis's handwriting, 3rd grade. Inside, crayon lines filled the pages. One stood out, written in bright orange, surrounded by a sun. "Mom is home. Everything is okay now." I sat on the floor with the notebook in my lap and let that sentence hang in the air. It had once been true. Back when a Band-Aid and a grilled cheese could fix anything. Before he learned that grown men don't say, "I need my mom." Before he decided that needing me was something to be embarrassed about. I didn't cry. I didn't tear the page out. I closed the notebook gently and placed it beside my journal. That evening, I didn't cook. I walked around the neighborhood instead. The magnolias were blooming, and a neighbor waved from her porch. I waved back. Back at the house, the lights were on, the TV humming. I entered quietly and went straight to my room. No one asked where I'd been. The next morning, I made toast for myself. Just 1 slice. No plate, just a napkin. I ate standing up by the window, sunlight warming the side of my face. "If I'm not welcome," I said out loud to no one, "I won't beg to be noticed. But I won't disappear either." The gift sat unopened, but I wasn't. It started with a beep on my phone. A fraud alert, or so I assumed. But when I opened the notification, it wasn't fraud. Not by the bank's standards anyway. A $1,350 charge at a high-end jewelry store. The card it came from was one I hadn't used in almost a year, one I thought I'd removed from all linked accounts after retiring. My first instinct was confusion. Then came clarity. Apple Pay. Travis had access once when his card got declined at the pharmacy. I never removed it. I waited until dinner to ask. Not confront, just ask. He was on the couch, scrolling through his phone, while Leora typed furiously on her laptop across the room. "I got a charge on my card," I said, keeping my voice level. "It was for jewelry. Expensive jewelry." Travis didn't even glance up. "Yeah, that was me. I meant to tell you. I'll pay it back. You meant to tell me? He shrugged. It was for something special. I stood there, waiting. No apology, no shame. Just a man comfortable in the lie he was caught in. Later that night, while making tea, I opened my phone and scrolled through Leora's Instagram. Her newest post hit like a slap. A selfie of her holding up a ring, grinning ear to ear. Travis beside her, mid-laugh. The caption, "He proposed," couldn't have happened without our hard work and love. Our hard work. I didn't comment. I didn't message. I just stared at the image, studying every detail. The champagne flutes, the skyline behind them, the ring, my money. The next morning, I stepped outside to collect the mail and found a small brown envelope in the box. No name, just my address written in shaky handwriting. Inside were printed receipts, dinners, spa visits, a designer purse, all charged within the last few weeks. And a note, short and blunt. You deserve to know. I knew the handwriting. Walter, the neighbor who lived 2 houses down. Quiet man, always out trimming his bushes, always watching. He must have seen more than I realized. I sat on the porch bench, the envelope in my lap. The air was warm, heavy with the scent of blooming gardenias. It wasn't shock, not anymore. It was the confirmation I didn't ask for but couldn't ignore. I took the papers inside and slid them into a folder I labeled that afternoon in thick black marker. Truth. Then I pulled out my journal. I hadn't planned to write anything, but the words came easily. I'm done asking for honesty from people who profit from lies. I closed the book, tucked it beneath my pillow. I didn't slam doors. I didn't speak to Travis or Leora that night. I cooked a simple meal for myself, washed the dishes, and returned to my room without a word. Around 9, I passed through the living room. Leora was on the phone, laughing. A glint of silver on her wrist caught my eye. A designer watch I hadn't seen before. She turned, saw me watching, and smiled as if I'd just walked into a play she was starring in. "Cute, right?" she said, lifting her wrist. "Travis surprised me." I smiled back. Not because I felt warmth, but because I finally understood the game. "Yes," I said. "He's full of surprises." That night, I didn't cry. I didn't write. I made a list. Not of things to say, but of things to do. Let them play the happy couple. Let them post filtered moments and curated lies. Let them believe I was retreating, because I had no plans to raise my voice. But I had every intention to be heard. The invitations went out midweek. "Just a casual brunch," Travis told me. "Some friends, Leora's cousin, maybe Aunt Denise if she can make it." I offered to help prep, assuming I'd be part of the gathering. He gave a vague nod, then handed me a grocery list. Sunday came with sunlight so bright it hurt the floorboards. I wore a simple blouse, the one with pale yellow flowers that Travis once said made me look soft. I spent the morning chopping fruit, arranging platters, and refilling pitchers of lemonade. Leora swirled around the kitchen like a hostess on a reality show, phone in one hand, laughing loudly, too loudly. Guests began arriving around 11. Some I recognized from pictures, others were strangers. No one introduced me, not even Travis. I stayed by the kitchen island, wiping the counter more than it needed, filling bowls with crackers no one touched. "Who's that?" I heard a voice whisper behind me. "I think she's the housekeeper," someone replied. Leora giggled. "She helps us out sometimes. Quiet, but loyal." I didn't flinch. I didn't turn. But my fingers tightened around the tray I was holding until the silver edge bit into my palm. There was no correction. "No, that's Travis's mother." Just a throwaway line tossed like trash behind a fancy guest chair. Later that week, I called the hospital billing department. I needed to update my address for an upcoming appointment. The woman on the line was kind, but confused. "Ma'am, our system doesn't show this address associated with you anymore. Says you're no longer listed." My chest prickled. I hung up and logged into the leasing portal Travis had once shown me when I'd helped set up utilities. My name was gone. I didn't confront him immediately. I waited. The next evening, after dinner, which I didn't cook, I asked if we could talk. We sat in the living room. He had the TV remote in one hand and a half-empty glass in the other. I called about my medical file, I began. They said I'm not listed at this address anymore. Travis blinked. Oh, yeah, that. Leora thought it might be cleaner, fewer complications. Cleaner, I repeated, slow, like tasting something spoiled. It's just technical, he added quickly. It doesn't mean anything. I nodded. If I'm not family on paper, maybe I should stop acting like it in practice. He looked away. Mom, don't make this into something. Then Leora entered, barefoot, with a wineglass and that same curated smile. It's just easier this way, she said. No offense. I looked at both of them, calm, steady. Don't mistake grace for weakness, I said. If you're going to erase me from the address, don't be surprised when I stop showing up in the margins. I left the room without waiting for a response. That night, I opened the folder labeled Truth. It had grown thick. Bank statements, printouts, screenshots. A copy of the lease agreement I had once co-signed, but now couldn't find my name on. I began drafting a letter, not to Travis, not to Leora, but to someone who would take my name seriously, a lawyer I once worked with through the hospital. I wrote, "They believe silence equals surrender. Let's show them how loud silence can be when it's delivered on letterhead." I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel bitter. I felt ready. The first I heard of the engagement party was from Janet, my neighbor across the street. She was trimming her roses when I stepped out to check the mail. "You must be so proud," she said, wiping sweat from her brow. "That party your son's throwing today must be exciting." I blinked. "What party?" Her face shifted into that half-smile people wear when they realize they've stepped into something awkward. "Oh, I thought you'd be there. Leora posted about it all week." I nodded politely and walked back inside. 2 hours later, I was standing at Travis's gate, holding a modest gift bag with a kitchenware set wrapped in tissue. I wore my navy cardigan and flats. Nothing fancy, just enough to blend into the background if needed. The backyard buzzed with laughter, glass clinks, and soft jazz playing from Bluetooth speakers. String lights were already strung from tree to tree, and Leora wore white. Travis spotted me from across the lawn. His smile froze. Leora's didn't come at all. "Oh, hi, Mom," he said, adjusting his cuff. "Didn't expect you." "I heard from Janet," I replied. "Thought I'd stop by. Brought something." "Sure, yeah, put it on the gift table?" I nodded. No one offered to take the bag. I walked over and placed it among glitter-covered boxes and embossed cards. People milled around, sipping from stemless glasses. No one greeted me. No one introduced me. I drifted near the food table, poured myself half a glass of lemonade, and waited. Leora clinked her fork to a glass. "Thank you all for coming. We've been dreaming of this day. To everyone who's been part of our journey, thank you. Truly, we wouldn't be here without you." I waited for a glance. A mention. Nothing. Someone near the fire pit whispered, "Is that her mom?" "Nah," someone else said. "She's just the quiet one." Later, a friend nudged Travis toward the microphone. He took it, a little tipsy, and said into the mic, "Yeah, well, not everyone's been supportive. But hey, we're here now, right?" There was laughter. Leora laughed the loudest. My name wasn't spoken, but I felt it erased. Someone filmed it. Of course they did. That night, after slipping away unnoticed, I sat in the dark of my room, scrolling. The video had already been uploaded. 2,000 views and climbing. "When your mom shows up uninvited," the caption read. Followed by an eye-roll emoji and "Prow family drama." There I was. Paused mid-step, face confused, frozen in time. It wasn't embarrassment, it was exposure. They didn't just disrespect me privately. They broadcast it. I stood up, turned on the light, and walked to my desk. I opened my browser and checked my credit report again. I don't know what made me do it, but something felt unfinished. There it was. A new personal loan in my name. 3 weeks old. Approved using my old driver's license, still on file. I clicked through the breakdown. $10,000. Transferred directly to Travis. I sat perfectly still. Then I printed the loan details, stapled them to the receipts from the jewelry purchase, the spa trips, the designer bags, all filed under the folder labeled Truth. By morning, I was done being quiet. I drafted an email. Subject: Pending Financial Misrepresentation Review. To Travis Boone, Leora Wexley. Attachments: Legal Notice.pdf, Supporting Documents.zip. No message body, no signature, just the facts. I clicked send. Then I made coffee. The letter had been sent 3 days earlier. I hadn't heard a word in return, not from Travis, not from Leora. No text, no call, no knock on my door with a mumbled apology and excuses. Just silence. But I'd learned something recently. Silence wasn't always empty. Sometimes it was full of noise no one else could hear. The mortgage letter arrived on a Tuesday. It came folded in half with the bank's logo and bold red text screaming urgent. I stared at it while the kettle whistled behind me. 3 months delinquent. Foreclosure pending. I checked my records again. $32,000 wired months ago. Not a cent short. Not a day late. But the payment history on the bank portal showed nothing past the first month. I had saved a house that no one cared to keep. I stared at the screen until the light from the monitor cast long shadows across my desk. My hands shook. Not from fear, but from the weight of knowing I'd been conned by blood I once bled for. That evening, I walked through the house. Every surface felt colder, like my presence had faded into the walls. Leora was in the kitchen, phone propped up, recording another video. "Welcome to our dream home," she said, smiling at her reflection. #grateful. #new beginnings. I paused behind the hallway arch, watching her wave a glass of wine at the lens. I used to dream about hearing laughter in this kitchen. Now, I just listened to her fake it for strangers. That weekend, I ran into Sandra at the grocery store. She was holding a bunch of kale and wearing too much perfume. "Marjorie, I didn't realize you were still in town," she said. "Still?" I asked. "Oh," she fumbled. "Travis mentioned you were just visiting, not living there anymore, that you had your own place now." I smiled and nodded. "Is that what he said?" Sandra shifted. "I didn't mean to offend. No offense taken." But something snapped in that moment, right behind my ribs. I finished my shopping in silence and went straight home. I didn't eat lunch that day. I printed everything, every receipt, every withdrawal. I even found old voice memos of Travis saying, "It's just until we get back on our feet, Mom." I organized it all into a color-coded folder. Then I opened my laptop and attached it to an email. To Travis Boone, subject: Housekeeper's records body. I was the keeper of this house. Now, I'll be its reckoning. I clicked send. Then I sent a copy to my lawyer. Later that night, I posted one photo on my old Facebook account, a picture of the original bank transfer. The caption read, "This was for a home, not betrayal." Within an hour, 2 people messaged. One asked, "Are you okay?" The other simply said, "About time." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. By morning, the post had been shared more times than any picture I'd ever uploaded. More than my retirement party, more than Travis's graduation. It was spreading like fire. Quiet. Unstoppable. And for the first time since I stepped foot in that house, I didn't feel erased. I felt seen. I hadn't looked at that drawer in over 2 years. It sat at the bottom of my filing cabinet, half blocked by old winter boots and a box of tattered cookbooks I no longer used. But that morning, after all the silence, the lies, the laughter that wasn't mine, I knelt on the hardwood and pulled it open. There it was, still folded neatly, sealed in a plastic sleeve. A notarized agreement. Travis's signature, clear and youthful, scribbled beside mine. It read, Any funds provided by Marjorie Duval toward this property are to be used solely for the purpose of maintaining the mortgage and related house expenses. Any deviation without written consent constitutes breach of trust. He'd signed it 2 years ago, when he first moved in with Leora, back when he still needed a cosigner, and my name had weight. I never thought I'd use it. It had felt like a formality, something to protect us both just in case. Now it was armor. I scanned it, sent a digital copy to my lawyer, and printed a fresh one for myself. I slipped it into a manila envelope marked certified delivery and sealed it with my initials. At 2:00 p.m., I asked Travis and Leora to meet me in the living room. They arrived 10 minutes late. Travis wore an old hoodie and didn't bother to meet my eyes. Leora had her arms crossed before she even sat down. "I won't take much of your time," I began, handing them the envelope. "What's this?" Leora asked, tilting her head like I was a curious insect she'd just discovered. "Open it now or later," I said, voice steady. "Either way, the next step has already started." Travis took the envelope, turned it over without opening it. His fingers twitched. "You're being dramatic, Mom." "No," I said. "I'm being legal." Leora scoffed. "We don't have time for games." "Good," I replied. "This isn't a game, it's notice." I stood up. My suitcase was already packed and zipped in the hallway. The taxi would arrive in 15 minutes. They didn't speak. They didn't follow me as I walked to my room, picked up my coat, and slid my keys into the side table drawer. I didn't look back when I stepped outside. The air smelled like summer. Hot asphalt, faint jasmine, the whir of distant sprinklers. I stood on the curb until a yellow sedan turned the corner and rolled to a stop. The driver greeted me by name, popped the trunk. I placed my bag inside, then paused, just once, to glance back at the house. The porch light flickered despite the daylight. A loose wire, it had never been fixed. In the back seat, I opened my phone. One post, just one. A photo of the document's signature page. Caption: "A home isn't built with walls. It's built with respect. And when respect is gone, so am I." Within an hour, it had over 3,000 likes and 500 comments, mostly from women. Messages came in faster than I could read them. "You just wrote my life." "I needed this today." "I'm crying in the break room." "Thank you for saying what I never could." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Somewhere between Dallas and the state line, I texted Adele. "On my way." She replied with one word. "Finally." I glanced at the manila envelope beside me, now labeled in pen. Last transaction. Not because it was my last battle, but because it was the last time I would give without asking what it cost me. The morning in Savannah didn't begin with chaos. No unanswered questions, no email alerts, no creaking floors overhead. Just the gentle hiss of Adele's coffee pot and the scent of ocean air drifting in through the screen door. I sat at the small table in the kitchen, mug in hand, listening to seagulls argue over something in the distance. The chair across from me was empty, but I didn't feel alone. For the first time in what felt like years, I wasn't bracing for disappointment. Adele slid a plate of toast in front of me. "You've got color back in your face," she said, smiling. "About time." I nodded. "Feels strange, having no one expect me to fix anything." She poured herself a cup and joined me. "Strange is just peace in disguise. You'll get used to it." Later that afternoon, I checked my email out of habit. One new message, subject line, "Look what you've done." It was from Travis. His message was short, cold. "You didn't have to go public. You humiliated me. Leora's furious. We lost the brand deal because of that post. You'll regret this, Mom." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the box I'd brought from Plano, the one with old notebooks and birthday cards. Near the bottom, still folded with the corners worn soft, was the crayon note I'd found weeks earlier. "Mom is home. Everything is okay now." I stared at it for a long time. The handwriting, uneven and hopeful. A child's belief that I was safety itself. I whispered, "Home is where I respect myself." That afternoon, Adele and I walked down to the water, sandals in hand. The beach wasn't crowded. A few kids played near the shore, and two retirees shared a newspaper under an umbrella. I stepped into the surf slowly, letting the waves lap at my toes. In my palm was a small envelope. I hadn't told Adele what was inside, but she watched without asking as I opened it, removed the note, and let the breeze carry it into the tide. It drifted out, bobbing once before sinking under the foam. "I lost a house," I said softly, "but I found something better." "That's how the ocean works," Adele replied. "It doesn't return what you give. It makes room for something new." That evening, I lit a candle on the balcony and began outlining my first workshop. The Women's Center was hosting a series on financial empowerment, and I'd offered to teach. My class would be called Boundaries and Bank Accounts, Knowing When to Say No. The center director had laughed at the title, but said the sign-ups filled in 2 hours. I didn't smile at the news. I felt something deeper than pride. I felt returned. In my journal, I wrote the final line for the day. He said, "Don't come back." I didn't. I went forward instead. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that silence isn't weakness. It's a choice, a strategy. Sometimes the loudest stand you can take is walking away with your dignity intact. I gave everything I had in the name of family. But the moment I respected myself enough to stop, I found freedom. So let me ask you, have you ever stayed too long in a place that no longer saw your worth? Have you ever been told not to come back and realized you never truly belonged? Maybe it's not about going back. Maybe it's about going forward, on your own terms. If this story touched something in you, leave a comment with the number 1 or let me know where you're watching from. And if it didn't sit right with you, I'd still love to hear why. What would you have done? And don't forget, if this video spoke to your heart, hit subscribe to follow the next story. We've got more to share, and maybe, just maybe, the next one will feel like it was written just for you.